Life doesn't move in straight lines. It twists, turns, and surprises us along the way. On Better Things Ahead, we talk with people who have walked those winding paths. Each story reminds us of the lessons, hope, and promise of better things ahead.
Welcome in. I'm Michael Estes, Senior Pastor here at Ridgecrest Baptist Church. I'm joined today by Dave and Wendi Thomas. Welcome in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Today we're going to talk about becoming grandparents. We've been kind of talking about different parts of the parenting journey, as we walk through life, kind of thinking through what it's like to become parents for the first time, becoming parents of teenagers, now becoming grandparents. So one of the questions is kind of like the big questions about becoming a grandparent. Well, before we get that, I'll get to the names in just a second because it's going to tie into the grandparent names. But tell us about yourselves. Tell us about your children, how many grandchildren you have. Tell us how long you've been at Ridgecrest. I'd love to hear some of that stuff.
Okay, well, I'll go first. We have 4 children, and we've been at Ridgecrest almost 30 years.
Yeah.
I think we started when my third child was 4. I remember that because he was in Michelle Blocker's class, so I do remember that. And the kids range from 30 to 25.
Okay.
And our oldest 2 each have 3 children. Well, our daughter is expecting her 3rd.
Okay. So lots of grandchildren running around.
Yes.
Grandparent names are a thing in the South. Like they may be everywhere, but I know in the South it's like a big deal when you get your grandparent names. What are y'all's grandparent names, and then how did you get to that point? Who gave you the names?
Go ahead.
Well, first of all, our grandkids are between ages 1 and 5. Mm-hmm. So there's 5 under 5 for the most part, 5 and under.
Wild and crazy.
Yeah,
Lots of
when
energy.
they get together, it's pretty dangerous.
Yep.
My grandfather name is D.
That seems pretty appropriate for Dave.
Yes.
Okay. So
Easy.
D.
All right.
Real simple. It's the first word that every grandchild spoke.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
Okay, but that's not really
It's
true.
a letter.
There's a lot of duh going on.
That's right. So it sounds
I'm claiming
right.
I'm claiming it.
Claiming D.
Yep.
And mine is Winnie, and I had an Aunt Winnie that I loved, and I didn't. I mean, she was a great aunt, but
Yeah.
I just really liked the name, and I thought, Winnie is good because Winnie the Pooh. Everybody likes Winnie
What
the
a
Pooh. Maybe
great
they like me too.
Grandmother name. It's
Right.
like so good.
Well, thank you. I'm pleased with it. It could have been
Dee
a lot
and
of
Winnie.
things. I had a lot of nicknames in college, so people are surprised with Winnie, but that's what they ended up sticking with.
All right. So tell me about. Okay, so first grandkid, 5 years old. Tell me about kind of the experience of stepping into that first grandchild. What was that like?
Yeah, that was pretty interesting, and I'm sure I'll get some of the details wrong. But what I remember primarily is that it was COVID, and we could not even see the grandbaby except my son holding her through a window. And we were all standing outside of the hospital room just rejoicing, but at the same time pretty frustrated that I couldn't get to hug my son. I couldn't, get to hold my first grandchild. That's my main memory of the first grandchild.
Yeah, and they were living in Tennessee, and he was in the military, and they luckily came home to have the baby, so we were able to at least experience that with them, even though we were outside a window. But they were away from us for a few years, and then they moved back when she was 3, so we're happy about that. But
Now, I will tell you this, though. Something that was pretty cool that did happen is we took pictures through the window.
Yeah.
And you could see our reflection through the window. So that's kind of a cool memory picture.
For sure. I bet that's hard, though. I mean, because you probably had built up in your mind what this is going to be like. What was that like? I mean, I know, what are some of the thoughts you had when you first found out that you're going to be grandparents? And then, how did you picture all that kind of playing out? I'm curious to know the emotions of that, all that kind of stuff.
oh, do you want to answer?
Yeah, I think you better go first.
No, we were very excited. They had been married a few months, and they were living in Tennessee, so we were just very shocked, but so excited. And I'm sure we had a lot going on with our other 3 children because probably Ashley was about to get married, and times are kind of running together.
Everything blurs together.
Everything
sure.
was probably a little blurred, but a lot was going on. But we were so thrilled. Just it's hard when they live away from you, and I know we have a lot of friends that their parents are not. I mean, they're not living close to their grandchildren, and that is hard. But it does make it so fun when you go to visit.
Yeah.
Because they're all yours. You don't share with anybody else. They're just you and them, and you wake up with them and you go to bed with them and at night, and there were some blessings in there. But
Sure.
about the the COVID part and all that, we could have felt probably sorry for ourselves a little bit without getting a visitor. But
Yeah. Dave, what was it like for you?
yeah.
Oh gosh, there were a lot of emotions with me. I think I wasn't too far off from having a heart attack.
Oh, yeah.
So I had that event probably
A year before.
maybe a year before.
Yeah, I remember that being around.
So I was pretty excited. Like, I guess that I was still around to experience this, but also I was excited for them. I was excited for us because we had kids when we were young in comparison to some folks. So I was excited that I was going to be a relatively young grandparent too. But so I think my perspective was, it would be I would be very curious what my perspective would be if I found out I was being a grandparent before my health related event as opposed to after. But I think after, it was just a super cool,
Grateful.
yeah.
I was about to say, the word
Very
that came
grateful.
to my
I could
mind was like a
experience
lot
that.
of gratitude in that.
And I think
For sure.
Brooke was still in college too, so she was just getting out of college.
Brooke's your youngest.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's
So,
maybe. Yeah, I should
Yep.
have said that, but yeah.
yeah. Well, so as you think about you guys as grandparents, what was your experience like with your grandparents, and has that shaped the way you grandparent at all? Like, what does that look like?
First, I mean.
Why don't you go? Well, let me set the background. So I grew up, and this has to do with your question. I grew up with a family that loved each other, but
Yeah.
they weren't super close, I would say. I had an uncle that lived far away, an aunt that lived far away. My grandparents, we moved away. So all these different experiences. So I wasn't super close to my grandparents or aunts and uncles, really. Mm-hmm. So that's the opposite with her.
Yeah.
Very opposite. I was very close with my grandparents. I went to Mississippi State, and one of my my dad's mom lived in Sturgis, Mississippi, and so that's 30 minutes away. So every time I could get to her house on a Sunday afternoon just to decompress and talk to her and relax was it. And then my grandmother and my mom's mom lived in Jackson. So same thing, anytime I could get to Jackson and go just sit with her for 30 minutes or just talk is what I just longed for, especially at the age when I was having, when I started having children. Like my mom got sick pretty young, and she, worked full time when I was little. So I think just that one-on-one, I mean, she was just busy and also didn't feel good a lot of times. So I think the one-on-one visiting time with my grandmothers was just key to me. So I knew I wanted to be near the family. In fact, when we first were talking about getting married, he was like, let's go to Denver. Let's go, if you know anything about Dave, he likes mountains and he likes to be out there in the wild. And I was like, but my family doesn't live there. We can't live away from them. So I think he's turned out to really enjoy being around them for the most part.
Yeah. Yeah, it sounds very similar to Julie and my experience with our grandparents. I was like you, Dave. I didn't have much of a relationship with any of I had one grandmother that I knew that was around some, but I mean, she got sick when I was fairly young and passed away when I was in college. And so I didn't have a real super close relationship with any of them, but Julie's family was a lot like yours, Wendy. We're like very close knit, very close with all the mothers, grandmothers, grandfathers, everybody that was there really tightly together. And it's just interesting to see how that has kind of bled over into our family in the way my parents, I think, have taken advantage of the fact that, like, because of their family history, I don't know that they knew that they were going to get the opportunity to grandparent as much as they have. And I'm thankful to have had their influence in my kids' lives. Julie's parents, that's all they've known. And so for them, it's like, this is what we do. This is how we pour into our grandkids. And how have you guys seen it as y'all's duty to, like, pour into your grandchildren and your children as grandparents and parents? Like, what does that look like kind of practically? Maybe what motivates that in you? Like, what do you guys think about those things?
Well, I think it's important to try to get them one-on-one, and because there's so many of them, and their parents are so divided. You know what I mean? Like with all of them, and I think if they could just get like an hour or two by themselves of undivided attention from somebody, that would just be great. Now that's very hard to do because when I get one, the other one gets sad, and they don't understand that. So that's kind of hard. I've also am here teaching.
Yep.
And so I've taught them all, which could be quite a challenge. But I love it. I love all preschoolers. It's just a fun age for me. But it's just, I think the one-on-one time is probably key. Try to make it to as many games of theirs as we can. I love when they come to our church. I mean, I do have some at our church, and the others come when they can, and I love that. And I love seeing our friends, pour into them. So it's been a blessing.
Yeah, I've got really a lot of thoughts going through my head right now about being a grandparent. I remember being a parent and reading some James Dobson books on how to parent. And he really emphasized the role of grandparents.
Yeah.
At the time, my kids' grandparents were Wendy's parents, not my parents. And it would crush my parents if they watch this or listen to this, but I don't mean it negative towards them. They just weren't close. But Wendy's parents were, and I see how that has impacted my kids and realize how important it is to have really a man and woman that can show unconditional love without so much focus on discipline. So I think that's super duper important that they see you as, hey, no matter what, this guy's going to love me, this lady's going to love me. Not that they don't see that with their parents. I don't mean it like that. It's just, it's different.
Well, okay, so that brings me to a question that I have for both of you is how has grandparenting been different than parenting?
It's somewhat liberating.
It really is, because we're tired now.
Go ahead.
No, you go.
There's a lot less pressure.
Yeah.
We have grandkids that are totally different. And if you know our grandkids, you know that some get a little more attention from the teachers, if you know what I mean. And it doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
Like, I don't sit back and go, oh my gosh, he's going to be in jail at age 14. Oh shoot, I only have one boy. He or she be in jail, but whatever. And I just love the spirit. And hindsight with some of my kids, I would say, gosh, I wish I embraced that spirit more than try to focus on molding, and just more acceptant of that spirit, and not be so stressed out about what it might look like to other people, or, hey, look, he's a little disruptive, but at the same time, that spirit, I don't want to squelch it. And so there's a lot less pressure, I think, as a grandparent to do that. And I get so tickled when I see my kids say certain things to their children, it's very difficult not to laugh out loud sometimes, and I very rarely try to hold it in, quite frankly.
Yeah, you're just a lot more laid back, and we're so we love seeing that funny side, and when I teach, of course, I've got to get it under control, so that's kind of hard. But when I'm not and I'm home, it's just fun, and it's fun to things that you really were so strict, and we probably were on some of them a little more than we should have been when they were growing up. And now I look back on it and think, yeah, I probably would do some things different if I had a chance.
But it is very, what it's like being a grandparent. It's very difficult to do that at first, because even as parents, one of us in this relationship is somewhat of a control freak. We won't mention who that might or might not be, and a fixer. So as really both of us are kind of like that, it's difficult to step back to and let the people that you trained begin the training.
Yeah.
Right.
Because we want to interject. I said something the other day. I said, well, I hope there was a handprint on that hiney, I think is what I said.
Scratch that one.
And I was like, I probably shouldn't have said that.
But you also see sometimes your children exhausted, because
Yeah.
I know.
And you feel like you need to
if their husband or
them.
wife is out of town, they're exhausted, and you want to help them. You want to get in there and help them, and you really just, that's hard. It's a hard balance.
That actually is a great segue into the next question I had. Is like, as grandparents, you probably see things very differently than your kids do with their kids, because you have the perspective of time, and you've been able to see this through at least a couple of times. You guys 4 times. You've seen it through, and so you're looking at this a little very differently in some ways than the person who is in it, for that first or second time, and they're just trying to survive, and they're trying to figure out what to do. So from your perspective, what are some things that can be super helpful to your kids when it comes to what you can give them, but also what are some things that maybe aren't as helpful that you see other people maybe trying, and it ultimately is not being received, or maybe it's more frustrating to the parent who's trying to figure this out. I'm curious, what do y'all think about those things? I mean,
it's very difficult because you see kids with some strong emotions, and you want to get in there and say no, but then when you just kind of let it play out and let the parents do what they, people always say kids act better when their parents aren't around, sometimes, and that sometimes is the case. So when the parents are around, I would definitely, if I'm answering your question, step back and let the parent do what they're going to, even if it's not what you would do. A lot of times we walk away and we'll look at each other like, let's just get out of here. Let's get out of here.
But
we gotta go. See ya.
Yeah.
But letting them handle it in their way is so important, and it's been good that we have been in just busy phases of life, that we're not micromanaging them anymore, because we did that for so long, probably to a fault, and now letting them kind of take the reins on what they think is right.
Sure.
If I'm answering.
Yeah, that's helpful. Yeah.
Okay.
How about you, Dave?
I think the biggest thing as a grandparent, I think, and I can say this, but doesn't necessarily mean I'm demonstrating it.
Okay.
To me, the most important job of a grandparent is to encourage my children, to praise them as a parent. As a grandparent, it's easy. You love on them; they expect you to love on them, and then you let them go.
Yep.
But as an adult child, a parent to an adult child, I think it's extremely important to say, "Hey, you're doing a really good job."
That's a great point, because I try when I say that, that's what I wanted my mom to say is, oh, you don't need to worry about this so much. You're doing great. You're doing the best you can. Just keep it up, and that's just being a cheerleader for them is probably the best thing. I mean, there's of course things we would say, oh, do this or do that. We'd like to, but we can't. I mean,
well, we do.
We probably do, and then go back and say, wow, why don't we just keep our mouth shut? You know?
But I just don't think we tell our kids enough that we're proud of them. Mm-hmm. It's just kind of one of those things you just assume that they know. Yeah. But even I just see this in young adults as well.
Yep.
But I think that's probably something that's not discussed enough as a grandparent. Mm-hmm. That I think one of the major part of being a grandparent is to praise your kids as parents.
Yeah.
Sounds kind of weird.
No. I think there's something to that because from a different perspective, when I get into counseling situations and I talk to dads and moms and stuff like that, one of the things that I see and hear on a regular basis, I don't know if I'm doing a good job. Like I really don't know if this is like if we're doing it right way and that sort of thing. And when I look at them and tell them you're doing a good job, like almost always I get an emotional response from that because they're like, you really think so? Like you really believe that? And I'm like, yeah. I mean, if you care enough, one, to come and talk about this with me because you're worried or you're concerned, that's a good sign. Mm-hmm. That means that you care enough to actually like want to do a good job at this. That's step one in doing a good job at this. And then step two is like, are you just doing what you can to love your kid and try to lead them toward Jesus? That means that you're doing a good job. And there's outside of that, the details of that, it's not gonna be perfect all the time. It's not gonna always look great. But if you're doing those things consistently, so I agree with you that they need to hear that. And you guys have a special place in that, especially, I mean, y'all have a great relationship with your kids. Not every parent has a great relationship with their children, but I do think that that's another aspect of grandparenting that creates a unique opportunity to kind of redeem the time where things were not handled well when a parent was trying to raise their children, and maybe there's an opportunity beyond that to. Now I can pour into my grandchild and my child who I maybe feel like I failed at. And this is a chance for me to get it right.
Yep. It's a second chance.
Yeah.
Sure.
And the watch out there is, I think it's very, very, and I can say this about myself. Mm-hmm. It's very arrogant for me as a grandfather to assume that my parenting advice to my adult child is accurate. There's just, for me to just say, hey, look, I'd do it this way. Well, I already did it that way. And it may not have been the right thing for that particular child because, we have 4 kids and they're all totally different.
Yep.
And now we've got 5 grandkids and they're all totally different.
Yep.
And so just that I would caution myself and other new grandparents, hey, look, don't assume that you were a perfect parent and you have all the right advice to your kid's kid.
Yeah, that's a good word.
Yeah.
All right, I want to move this over to the spiritual side of things. How have you seen your role as a person who is discipling your children, your grandchildren, changed now that you become grandparents? What does discipleship look like as grandparents in the lives of your grandchildren and your children too? But
well, for me as a grandparent, it's just unconditional love. Mm-hmm. I've not had an opportunity to say, hey, look, let me tell you why I love you. Let me tell you about God's love for you. They're just, to get them to sit still is next to impossible. I don't feel like I've had that opportunity.
Sure.
What I do feel like I've had an opportunity with my adult kids is to say, hey guys, look, let's think about this whole Christianity thing, and let's make sure you understand why you chose to be a follower of Jesus, because it's yours now, and you own it.
Yep.
And you need to take it, and you need to understand why you believe what you believe, and you need to demonstrate that belief, and you need to be able to articulate that to your children and articulate that to other parents that you come in contact with, because now it's yours. Mm-hmm. And it's always been yours, but most of the time, hey, look, I'm going to church because my parents made me go to church. Mm-hmm. Or, hey, look, my parents made me go to church. Now I just feel like it's the right thing to do, and if I don't go to church, I'm going to hell. That's not how we taught our kids, just for the record. Yeah. But you know what I mean.
I know what you mean.
There's this guilt and there's this obligation, as opposed to, hey, this is a real deal relationship, and I need to be able to articulate to my children why I believe what I believe.
Yeah.
Did that answer the question?
Yeah, it does. Yeah,
Okay.
for sure. Wendy, anything you want to add?
I'm just thinking, like, at this age, letting them pray, and then you praying for them, praying with them, and then just bringing God into everything. Like, would God want us, to be ugly to this friend, or would, look at this that God has made, out in nature, whatever. Just bringing the name up. But the great thing is they feel very safe and secure here. Mm-hmm. So all of them, and they love, the classes and the teachers, and they obviously feel very, very comfortable, almost too comfortable sometimes. But but that has been so great, because they do have a lot of questions, about God at young ages, And I remember Ashley was like that as a child early on. Yeah. So that's been interesting to see.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because we actually did have our oldest grandchild. We had hamburgers the other day, and I said, okay, who's going to pray? And I said, oh, Massey, you're going to pray. And she's like, nope. And then she said, yeah, I'll pray. And it was just the most precious little prayer. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because allowing them to do that is I think really, really good.
Yeah, building that into the rhythm of your life and their life, and that's a cool thing. So, all right, last question. What would you tell a friend of yours who's about to become a grandparent? What would you tell them to be ready for?
This is going to be two polar opposite responses.
What are you going to say?
I'll let you go first.
I would just say it's going to be wonderful, which they know it. Everybody's very excited about that. And, I think you hear sometimes there's a trend that parents, grandparents, parents aren't getting along, and then they're, never use your child. You're going to bring a lot to the table when you're a parent, all your past experiences and all that. So grandparents want to love. And I just, it kills me when I hear situations where the parents don't really get along. But I just say, if you keep the child keep God the main focus, but the children the main focus, and not worry about the little tiffs and issues that you might have with each other, that would go a long way. But as a grandparent, just trying not to give too much advice, trying to be there and let them figure it out, because they will figure it out. There's so many books on parenting, but we came home, and I think the nurse didn't even think we had a car seat. She probably thought, what are these young kids doing with a new baby? You just don't know what you're doing.
Yep.
So you got to figure it out,
Yep.
And they will figure it out, because they love their children as much as you do, if not more. So
yeah, and they will ask for your advice when they want it.
Right.
Yes.
We don't need, we're not parents anymore. We need to let go of that aspect of it until they want us to be parents. Mm-hmm. At this point in time, we're supposed to evolve into friends, more friends, in my opinion.
For sure.
As far as my advice, so I tell the story all the time, so you're probably not going to be surprised by it. I was super excited after my kids were gone. Not gone.
Oh, I know what you mean. Yep.
So it was like, oh my gosh, I got my wife back. I climbing that ladder as fast as I could, and I got to the number 2 spot. That's as high as I'm going to get as long as my dog's alive. And so as soon as I got up to that number 2 spot, grandchild number 1 came. Mm-hmm. And then grandchild number 2. and then 3, and then 4 and 5, literally, just like that, and now 6, which is such a wonderful blessing. So,
That puts you in about the 8 spot, right?
I can't count that high anymore.
He's decided to get off the list. Not even trying to get
I've lowered my expectations. But that is a watch out.
Yeah, for sure.
Because we really, I love Michael and Peggy's podcast. I did listen to that. You got to make your spouse number one now as young adults.
Yeah.
And then when the kids come, they're priorities, but they're not above the marriage. However, it's very difficult when you're married to someone that loves, the children and the grandchildren that Wendi does. I have to learn to step back, and I don't want to look at Wendi, but I struggle with that because I feel like I've moved into that role. Now I get to be a husband again, and that's a challenge because we've had to set some really, I would say, strong boundaries, but maybe one day a week where it's like, hey, this is me and you, and it's just me and you.
We're gonna have a date, and that's gonna be
So that's one thing, and I think the other thing that for somebody that has experienced what I've experienced from a health perspective, that was totally came out of the blue. I'm thankful for it, as weird as it may sound, because I always refer back to, hey, quit thinking so far ahead. Quit thinking so far behind and start living in the present. And that is so difficult, in my opinion, as a human being with the baggage that I have, whether it's a job, whether it's a past, whether it's this, whether everybody's got this baggage that they carry with them. And I just implore people to realize what's in that baggage, what's in that backpack they're carrying, and put it down and cherish the present. And if you've got issues with your spouse as grandparents, man, go to Michael Estes, go to some counseling. I'm being very serious.
Absolutely.
And get that right, because that's how you become a better parent and grandparent. You got to have the number one relationship in your life right. That includes God, number one, and your spouse, number 2.
Yep. Those are good pieces of advice. I really appreciate y'all taking the time to be on the podcast and talk about being grandparents. And I'm not ready for that step in my life. I know that it's going to happen eventually, but I love to watch people move into that phase of life. It's been funny to watch. I mean, obviously, y'all have been in it for a little while now, but like watching Steve Given and Anna kind of enter that part of their life. It's just been...
And they're wonderful grandparents.
They are.
So fun.
And it's funny to see Steve, because I've known Steve for a long time, and I knew him as a parent, and it's just funny to see him as a grandparent.
He's so different, isn't he?
So
we knew him as a
different.
parent, too.
We
He is different.
So,
Can I say one more thing, though?
Sure.
About, you said something that really, I want to, whoever listens to this, but, you're not ready to be a grandparent right now, which is a very fair statement based upon your kid's age. Okay?
they're not married.
That statement.
Yes. But here's my next statement. If it does happen, not the way that we have it drawn up, it is a beautiful thing regardless.
Absolutely.
It is absolute something to embrace, accept, and it should not change how you grandparent.
Yep, I completely agree, and I would embrace that moment. Hopefully, we will get things in the right order, and but we're still a little ways away from that. I mean, he's 19, and all he does is play baseball right now. So I don't see how he has time for anything else. But
That's a good thing.
Yep.
That's a good thing.
Yeah. So, well, anyways, thank y'all for coming in. Thanks for talking about grandparenting. And if you guys as listeners have any questions about any of these things, I would encourage you guys to reach out to us here at Ridgecrest. I can get you guys in touch with Dave and Wendi. I'm sure they'd love to talk to you some more about it. You can talk to me about it. But we're just glad that you took the time to listen. And we all, as we look ahead to things like this, we know that there are better things ahead.
Thanks for joining us on Better Things Ahead. Follow the show on Spotify and Apple Podcast, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for the video of our podcast. Until next time, keep moving forward, because there are always better things ahead.